Now, this guy's a very funny guy, and I want a good hit from my friend. He's here tonight, Les the Plumber!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just come back from a pleasure trip. I took my wife and my mother-in-law to the airport. But I just had one problem. They came back. Anyway, as you know, I'm a plumber. And plumbers at the age that I am, which is 70 years old, I get all kinds of diseases. The first disease you get is pneumonia, and then you get hepatitis, and then you get a disease that is very dangerous, and that's called colitis. And what colitis is not what you know colitis is, but colitis is every time you walk, your balls collide, and that hurts. And that's what I got. So, that's why you see sometimes plumbers walk around like this, and like that, so forth and so on. But anyway, did you hear about the guy who walked in all wrapped up in saran wrap into the psychiatrist's office, and the psychiatrist took a look at him and he said, "Please, don't say anything, I see your nuts." And then of course, there was the other gentleman that walked into the psychiatrist's office, and the psychiatrist said to him, "What do you think is wrong with you?" He says, "Well, I think I'm a car mechanic." So the psychiatrist says, "Please, get under the couch." And then, of course, you know why they give Viagra to all the old men in the nursing home? It stops them from falling out of the bed. And then, did you know that Abraham Lincoln was Jewish? He was shot in the temple. You heard that one, huh? But do you know why they can't keep Jews in jail? They eat lox. You heard that one too. But then, of course, did you know there's all kinds of Jews in the world? Orange Jews, tomato Jews, pineapple Jews, and prune Jews. I am a prune Jew because I keep running to the bathroom all the time. And did you hear what one strawberry said to the other strawberry? "I'm in a jam." And then, of course, did you hear about Willie Nelson? He had a car crash because he was on the road again. And do you know why the turtle crossed the road? Because it was the chicken's day off. But you know why the chicken crossed the road? Because it was the turkey's day off. And of course, then there was do you know what Adam said to, you know what Adam said to Eve? "Step back, I don't know how big it's gonna get." I figured you would like that one. And then, of course, I had turned 65, and I decided I'm going to go down and get my Social Security, see, so I went down to the office, and I got there, and the lady said, "Well, I'd like to see your ID," and I said, "Geez, I forgot my ID, I'll have to go back home." She says, "No, come over here, open up your shirt, let me see if you got gray hairs." And I did that, and she said, "Okay, you look like you're old enough, I'm going to give you Social Security." So I went back home and I told my wife what the lady said. She saw my gray hairs. And my wife turns around and says to me, "You should have dropped your pants, you might have got disability." Anyway, and then there was the 90-year-old man who's walking in the park, and he hears rustling by his feet, see? And he looks down, and there's a frog. So he picks up the frog, and the frog says to him, "You know, if you kiss me on my lips, I will turn out to be the best good-looking woman you ever saw and give you the greatest sex." And with that, he takes the frog and he puts it in his pocket. And about 10 minutes later, the frog comes out and says, "Don't you want what I said?" And the old man turned around and he said, "At my age, I'd rather have a talking frog." And then there was the lady, that took the infant to the pediatrician. And the doctor is examining the baby, and he says, I see what's wrong. The baby is undernourished. So he asked her, do you bottle feed or breastfeed? And she said, we breastfeed. Well, with that, the doctor said, oh, I have to examine you and see if everything is okay. And he's feeling her up and down, in and out, and this and all that. And finally, he says, I see the whole problem. The whole problem is that you have no milk in your breast. So she says, well, I'm only the grandma, and I'm glad I came along for the ride. Anyway, do you know what kind of lights they have on Noah's Ark? They have floodlights. All right, and you know what kind of lights they had in King Arthur's court? They had night lights. Okay, so you heard those jokes. All right. Do you know what you get when an Indian drinks tea? You get tea. Oh, you heard that too. Well, that's good. Let's see. Oh, did you hear about that new? Did you hear about that new Italian car? It's called the Mafia. It comes with 2 hoods. And then, of course, they give Viagra to all the old men in the nursing homes because it stops them from falling out of the bed. You heard that one too. Okay. Well, anyway, did you hear about this 90-year-old man and this 85-year-old woman go into the pharmacy, and they start to ask the pharmacist, do you have all kinds of medicines for different diseases? He says, yes, we do. And then she asked him, do you have wheelchairs and crutches and all that? He says, yes, we do. He says, why are you asking me all these questions? He says, well, we're going to get married in about a month, and I'd like to use your store as a bridal registry. Okay, all right, okay. And then, of course, there was this man is sitting at a bar, see, and all of a sudden the guy next to him falls off the stool. So the bartender says, look, why don't you do me a favor, please take him home. So the guy said, okay, and as he's taking the guy home, he keeps falling down and falling down. He finally gets him into the car, and he drives him home. And then all of a sudden he gets him out of the car, and he keeps falling down and falling down. He finally gets him to the door, knocks on the door, and the wife opens up the door and says, he says, Mrs. Cohn, I brought your husband home. And she says, where's his wheelchair?